Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. We are now two-thirds of the way through PSS, and as always, the leaderboard is as close as ever. Krot, after that last game, things are really starting to shake up, and maybe in PSS fashion, we're sort of slowly moving to basically a universe where 4 or 5 different teams can be competing for the win going into Game 6.
Yeah, it is as standard for PSS to be so open until generally the last two games where, two or three teams typically come out of game five with a monster lead and, rotate around Jazz, Team Arctic White, and Insta Flush, and even Kona and 4AM, all within 10 points of each other. So whoever has a big game out of them, it's going to be very, very open until game six. I think realistically, Joro, I don't think you can really run away unless you have, a 20-point dinner. And it's looking like realistically any of these three teams can do that. And if not, they can get a 20-point second place. So I think it's completely wide open for everyone in the lobby in the top six teams.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what game number 4 has done to the leaderboards. The first game of Erangel is now in the history books. Rotate around Yaz with that chicken dinner, have leapfrog Team Arctic White into first place, but only by a single point. Team Arctic White are still, I would argue, the most consistent team that we've seen today. And I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do in the final 2 games. If there's one team where you could say keep doing what you're doing, it is probably Team Arctic White. Everyone else has been very much up and down. Arctic White have been quite consistent. Instaflush in third, 5 points behind, pardon me, and Kona a further 3 points behind them. But unfortunately, due to the technical issues suffered in game number 4, we know that Kona are likely to be starting with 3 players, sadly, this time around. Then moving on, we've got 4A men, the life-saving killers, Entropy and Wii Sports completing the top 8. Although I have to say, there's a bit of a gap between Wii Sports and Entropy. So the top 7, 32 to 44 points, spread by 12 points, and there's then a further 11-point gap back to 8th.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, the top 7, it's really very open for anyone. And looking at how the teams have been placing, we don't actually have any double game winners. It's been a first, it's been a couple of seconds for all of the top 2 teams, 3 teams. Are they going to be able? I think whoever gets a dinner next, I think will be one of the favorites for the rest of the tournament, regardless of how many kills they get. That extra 10-point booster is going to give them a little bit more of a cushion to play around with as we move on to the playing path, Joro. Oh,
wow,
no.
another one. So, rotate around Yaz, going to be interesting. Arctic White, if either of those teams, or maybe even Instaflush, get the chicken dinner in this game, and they are able to get it with a high number of kills, that will potentially put them in a near unassailable position for game number 6. But it's a lot to be rolling dice on, so at the moment, it is still anyone's possible position to leapfrog into the top teams contesting. And honestly, I think anyone in the top maybe 10 teams can potentially get a win here and suddenly find themselves mixing it up with the top 3. So it is still all to play for as we move into game number 5. A very, very interesting 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock playing path. Again, a bit of a southern skew. Not quite as bad as last game, but someone hates Stauber, let's put it that way.
The PUBG gods are just not allowing us to have that kind of finish. And even, did you see that PGI Miyazaki finish? Oh, what I would give for the last game to be one of those. But
I
it
love
looks
those.
like
They're my favorite.
Oh, so fun. So fun watching everyone scramble, not really knowing what to do until like zone 3 or 4, going, please come south. Please come south. No, what's going on? But yeah, so it looks like we're going to get a fairly similar spread. Kona not actually contesting Turtle for the military base this time. They're going to opt to go slightly further north, potentially towards bunkers and the 2 buildings just on those. Life-saving killers taking a few shots and actually getting some hits onto Jones from Entropy as he's parachuting down. Nice shots there, whoever that was from. But we're seeing Arctic and Instaflush taking out a very similar position as they did in the first game. We see Wii Sports taking around Gatka. Oh my god, I was not expecting that, Joro.
Of course. I mean, of bloody course. Wouldn't have had it any other way. So the first circle, north of Rojok, Forsaken, who I think are in and around school, or possibly Mini Pachinki, and the Milkmen, who have taken apartments by the looks of things, are relatively close to each other. No one really in a position to say, that they're about to fight any other team. I think this has been quite pleasant compared to the previous game where we had fights in Lipovka, we had another fight going on near Pachinki, we had one in military base. Everyone broadly, Krot, has behaved themselves at the start of this game.
Seemingly, they stuck to the spreadsheet, Joro. Yeah, I don't think we're going to get any early engagements. You're right there. Didn't you need to spit your water out, my mate?
Just almost. Not quite.
Almost. But yeah, so I think this is going to be really crucial. We see Kona, they're the furthest north. If they can move and block the bridges, I think they're in a great position to frag out and potentially cause a lot of problems here if it goes north. But are they going to take that risk? And where I can't wait. I'm looking on the map for rotate around Yaz, and I can't see them, but they're actually just next to
They're near Mansion. They're covering Mansion. Yeah. Can I just say, by the way, it gives me great pleasure to say that 4A men, I think, have gone to, or maybe have even gone past now, J compound, and I just appreciate that they've done that. And absolutely
my God.
sick. That was a iron sight shot, wasn't it? With the moist nugget there from 155 onto Cabroyo. Oh my goodness.
They don't care.
I don't think he had a helmet or armor, to be fair. So I think that was a body shot, one hit KO.
But still, absolute quick scope from the moist nug there. As affectionately named by you, one of the first times we played Joro, I believe. But that absolutely stomping game nugget from military. Oh, what a game that was. Yes. YouTube video on the Coffin Dodgers YouTube if you want to see that. But yeah, so we see the Milkman looting up. I don't know if they've got any vehicles, and it's going to be interesting to see who's taken J compound and if they have actually got any vehicles to play with. Hopefully they've got one over at school potentially, so they can just dip out the back. They don't seem to have anyone in the compound just down to the southwest, which I don't want to say the name that I know of the call out for, but
it's the plug socket compound, obviously.
The plug socket. I heard you say that when you were playing with Viking.
The plug socket.
And I was like, I've got to remember that. Have not remembered that.
You do have to remember that. You definitely do. Rotate around Yaz, by the way, even though they're being very, very sneaky in game, are surprisingly close to entropy. And I get the feeling there is a chance that a couple of those members might actually run into them, or at least be within shooting distance very shortly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing the logo where it is. We see Zachary, Mobster, and Nilo just coming out of Lipovka around prison. But if you look at Sills, he's actually over by J compound. Good point. He's by J compound. That's why it's there.
They're actually just hiding the map. That's not very helpful there.
Oh, we need
Zachary
to
and co looking like they're moving towards Sills now to try and help him out. Entropy look like they're going to actually rotate around Yaz, as opposed to rotate around Yaz, who are not going to rotate around Yaz. Get that in your head, guys. 4A men have done a tremendous job of moving past all of these guys, not getting shot while crossing a bridge, and moving to the north side of the circle. As a result, they're basically the only team in the top half of Phase 1. I have to give them plaudits for that. They are going to have such an to do this, and because they recognized that they needed to do this early.
Carlo coming out with a drive-by there, just trying to relieve some of the pressure from their rotation, from rotate around Yaz. How many times are we going to say that in this game, Jaro, by the way? Your last sentence boggled my mind a little bit. Insane. But they're just going to take up in the liquid compound. And Brave swapping a little bit of loot there. I would like to think probably a scope or something. And they're going to continue on their merry way as we see Roz and Garden start to look a little bit busy. And we're seeing Fence coming up that might actually run into this rotation of rotate around Yaz, going south of Yaz and Entropy.
That was a PUBG drug deal if I've ever seen one. 2 cars just quietly moving past each other. Slip an item here, slip some ammo there. Done. Bob your uncle. First aid kit. Is that likely story? Here comes the drive-by now. And Zach manages to find a knock and gets the kill actually onto Stanker as well. Interestingly, using the bolty to finish. So a little bit of reverse rolls there. So down and the bolty finish. Really good stuff there. Mobster trying to get a second. Not quite, but I think he managed to get a little bit of damage done as well as they slowly settle in. So clearly most teams banking on the circle in Phase 2 moving south. Whereas it looks like 4A men are the only ones north still. And they've got a free crate as well. They're loving life right now.
It's free real crate. But Yeah, they've got a lot of ground. Sorry, I'm not sorry, actually. That was... Um, it's free, really great. Kieran picking up that Grozen. He's a particularly devastating player. He is going to pick it up and go for it. And that is going to be nasty in his hands. Now, they're in a great position. They've left Valley at the crossroads, and they've all gone and looted Taverny. They're going to be completely uncontested. They've got so much time to play with. And if this comes north with Valley in that anchoring position, potentially watching for anyone coming down from that Yaz Road, they're in such a good spot here if this does decide to swing north.
Oh, Kona managed to get... Oh, Kona have got Loggery in, but are still playing with 3 by the looks of things. It looks like it's Perma who is actually in the game. And the Sinky is still downloading PUBG, but that is fine. Trying to get a couple of drive-bys done. They are on the east side of Rajok. And they've got the compound all this to themselves at the moment. They're relatively happy, taking a couple of pot shots over at the valuable veterans. No knocks just yet. All 16 teams left alive and 60 players in this lobby at the 8-minute mark.
Yeah, that middle section is looking very busy, and I think people are just going to want to stack up, try and save their vehicles, and get ready for this potential north shift, which I'm not going to lie, I would love to see, because I think if this goes north, the lobby is going to be chaos. I think we're going to see drive-bys left, right, and center. We're going to see some mad scrambles, and we might even get to see rotate around Yaz as they're just kind of moving into that J compound. Oh, we see a big push here. They got the valuable veterans, got a knock onto one of the members of Entropy, and they're pushing in just to get this control of the compound just to the north of Volcano. Jones coming up, and the rest of Entropy just coming in to try and back him up. Few shots coming in onto Beastly as back of a rise, but it's not going to be enough to save Harari there. Full crash, though.
All of the rest of Entropy coming in now. Notice the way that they did that, by the way. The way they ran into that corner, they knew that there was only one person there. So they weren't even bothering to check their corners. They knew that one person was down. They needed to get the flush safety before the reinforcements arrived. Valuable veterans knew exactly what they were doing. And
absolutely, I think that's him
trying to get a second knock on the... Oh, that Molly's bad. If he starts the first aid straight away, it might be okay, but he's actually started with bandage. He's only got bandages left. That's a problem.
Oh no.
Being in that position without a first aid, I'm not so sure about that. Entropy now have a successful breach into the compound. Beastie is going to go down. And Surai at the top of the stairs, holding on for dear life. The circle has popped, by the way. You can see it in the top left of your screen. It's basically centering in around Yasnaya Lake. That's the Molotov that's going to signal to Surai. We might be in a bit of trouble here. Leaps out, looking for the member that might get him his entry frag. Hasn't found it so far. That frag grenade did a fair chunk of damage. That will be that for the force of the valuable veterans trying to take this compound. The other half of the team, sadly, quite far away.
So at the start of that fight, obviously they got the knock, and that was in part because Felon and Cronenberg were on the opposite hill feeding the information. Like you said, they knew that there was only one player there, and they rushed in. Now, Felon and Cronenberg could have done a lot more work to save the remaining members of the veterans there, but unfortunately they didn't hit their shots as I can't remember who swung and got the final kill there. And now they're in a bit of a predicament where there's just 2 players left. They're fairly central. They're on a hill. And, you know, Entropy have just taken that real estate. They lost 1 for their trouble, but they got 2 picks in return and a solid compound to work from.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting to talk about, because when they saw the 3 other at one point, hang on a second there, the colonizers getting, well, potentially colonized themselves by Turtle Esports at the moment, who are also rotating in a similar path. That's half the team gone in as many seconds. Colonizers now down to 2. But you're right there. Felon and Co., they saw the other 3 vehicles rushing in, and I guess decided that half the team was okay. I'm a little surprised that at least one of them didn't also rush in with a vehicle of their own to try and engage in the team fight, because it wasn't a 2v2. The rest of the team were full sending it in onto half of the team. So I agree that they could have done things a bit better, but I'd be interested to hear the reason why the other 2 members of the team there didn't choose to try and enter the fight.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a little bit of a fumble, but it's one of these things. We know what it's like when the pressure comes on, and these things happen so quickly. You don't really have the time, especially if you think that you're on an elevated position, you've got your long-range weapons, and you can provide that support. But what they didn't count on was for one of the players actually sitting back up on Volcano and laying shots into Felon and Cronenberg, making their job just that little bit harder to cover the boys in the compound.
Everybody moving north now as well, not really waiting to be stuck. The circle does actually rotate back towards Yaz. Amusingly, rotate around Yaz are one of the few teams that have still not gone north of Yasnaya, so opportunities there for them, potentially. Fit Mickey going down to some beautiful shots from the staple gun there. And I feel like Arctic are continuing to rotate towards Instaflush. They're not stopping.
They are. No, there's 2 members down now of Instaflush. That is Doid, who has been flushed as well. Oh.
Yaz Lake, here we go.
This is fantastic. And now we see the life-saving killers. They've taken up a really, really good position. But Entropy in those huts just south of the lake, that's going to be phenomenally powerful. You've got those elevators. It's really not easy to push that at all. Unless you full crash with vehicles, which, because of the lump to pump, makes it very hard to get to the top 2 cabins on the lake. And I think that's a great position from them. They've done a lot of work, and they're going to get themselves potentially here into endgame with a lot of ease as the rest of the lobby scramble to rotate in.
I think you brought up a really good point. One of the strongest positions in the whole circle right now are those huts on the south side of the lake. Rotating out of them might be tricky, but based on this circle, I don't think they'd have to until at least phase 5 or 6. So it'll be interesting to see who tries to contest them there. Yazak from Team Arctic White trying to contest on the north side, recognizing maybe there's someone already going to be there. There's actually another team already on these rocks too, playing the cliffs, and that's the colonizers. Only 2 of them left. They're just slightly east, so I'm expecting Arctic and the colonizers to run into each other very, very shortly, but just patiently holding the position while the rest of the team moves in. Really, really sensible stuff from them. Have the colonizers spotted that they're there yet? They're looking in that direction. They've heard the vehicles. Do they know that they've stopped on the cliff?
Oh, shots raining down as seeing a lot of kills come out, a lot of downs come out, and it is from all of the teams. Just they're scrambling into positions, and they think they're clear from one way and just getting shot in the back from another. There's rotations left, right, and center, and no one really knows where safe now because it was such a southern playing path that essentially at this point to get into position, you're blind scouting.
Okay, if you do it early enough, I suppose, but when you're in a position like this, you don't. Oh, hello. Little bit of a ring around the rosy there. And
that was a dodge and a weave I've ever seen.
Really, really good stuff there from Meows. But struggling to prevent the refrag, and that's actually Kuzi from Fence who gets that. We also have the rest of the squad moving up there. Wow, Forsaken getting absolutely wrecked there from a headshot from Bested. And that's C-137. There are several squads in the northwestern quadrant of the circle trying to make their way in. C-137 simply being one of them, and they're taking a lot more shots against 4A men too. Don't quite get the extra knocks from that, but if anyone else wants to come in, they do have to go through these guys, and it seems like at least some of those shots very much on point in this game.
That was crazy. There was like 3 teams, and then we saw Kuzi raining in shots, and then we saw team. Oh, look at where Fence are. They're very up on the mountain there, and Entropy have actually moved in further. We talked about the position, which has been now taken up by Wii Sports. That they've opted to move in just towards the granny and the barns.
So smart.
I like it. And I don't know if that was immediate or if they decided to do that whilst all the rotations of Viton was going on, or did they do it when the zone popped? Or we're seeing a classic rotate as well here from Instaflush. I think they will go and take the hills just north of that crate if they do and play like they normally do. They're going to take the wide route, and if they go up there and this swings away from the city to the north, we've seen them play up there in SBSs before, and they are brutal from up there. But I'm not sure how many players they've got up.
Like, what happens if it rotates south? Once you're up there, it really sucks to actually get back towards the city. So I don't really know what the best kind of position is. I think it's probably somewhere similar to where Entropy is, where if it goes north, you'll be able to leave, and if it comes south, it's still safe. But really, you're right. Teams have to make that choice now, basically. To use the northeast.
This is just brutal. There's so many teams fighting up on this hill, and the rotate is just so hard. Having to dodge and duck and weave. Remember your 5Ds of PUBG. It's not dodgeball anymore. It's rotation time. I can't believe that Kona managed to get one through that, but now Kuzi and the rest of the defense have got a very hard fight against Turtle Esports and the blue on their backs to even remotely make it into this zone. And when they do, the closest point they've got is got next to no cover.
That's approximately all of the utility coming out there. Kuzi goes down. Amateurs very low. Oh, I'm not sure you're going to actually get that first aid off, mate. Using the bandage first instead of the first aid. Unfortunately, that mistake costs Fence their life in, well, not the entire competition. They've still got one game left, but really struggling at the moment. So they're out in the Northwest. Turtle Esports will be breathing a sigh of relief, because after that, they'll be thinking, okay, we don't have to use all of our utility to take out these teams, which means we can save it for later on. And you're thinking ahead to the next fight. If they had to use all of their frag grenades, all of their mollies here, they would have had such a difficult fight later on if, for example, the circle does require them to go back into Yaz.
Oh, great shots coming out there. And taking out Sills from rotate around Yaz, who I think have been undone by not rotating around Yaz. In all honesty, they're stuck in the blue now. And this looks like a big GG for them, and it's because they didn't follow their name. I'm sticking to that.
No, I think that's completely fair. And entirely agreed. There we go. Rotate around Yaz. Didn't quite live up to the namesake, and as a result, get eliminated now in 11th place. Not too far behind, though, Arcona. They had such a struggle. I mean, only one member actually made it in. The big question now is whether we go anywhere but south, because look how many teams, Krot, are in Yasnaya and in the south side of the circle. Turtle Esports and Arctic are waiting for the opportunity right now. Even if Arctic have to rotate north, that's fine. They go through one team, as opposed to, say, 12. And Turtle, so I can hear the Turtle whoops of joy from here.
It's about to get spicy, and Turtle have made the right call. They've got all of that high ground to play with. Look at them moving straight away. They are just going to take up all that real estate by the warehouses on that cliff face, where they can just rain down pure hell on any team trying to find a place in this zone. Now, don't get me wrong. There are a few nuts and crannies, crags, if you will, that can be utilized in this zone, playing up against some of the hills just below and the ridges. But you're going to have every set of eyes from Yaz Naya who are looking to scout in your back. Turtle looks super strong here. They have all four up. They've got a nice spread, and they've got a lot of control with peak positioning here. So, for me, Turtle, they need to make this positioning count. They've not been able to get pretty much out with spawn for the whole game, for the whole and now they're going to have their time to shine, as we see Hannibal coming into contact with Tribe from Wii Sports, and Arctic are looking to collect a few more kills and to get their total up. But Jacob saying no thank you, and they're already making that position work, Joro.
This is a frustrating position to be in, because they can't go anywhere further into the zone without having several teams spotting them in the open. So I think Team Arctic is right. Even though they started this, when this circle popped, they started in a good position. They haven't moved fast enough, and as a result, I think several teams now have the drop on them. Teams in Yasnaya are going to be asked the question in Phase 6. They're doing all right so far. Entropy, not a problem. Instaflush managed to get in between them and C-Play. And then C-Play are off to the east side. But in Phase 6, all three of those teams are very likely to have to move out of Yaz. And that's when we will see the south of Yaz fight. At the moment, Turtle, very, very happy on the north side. I believe they are fighting against life-saving killers. And Grim Reaper actually getting a knock or a kill onto Choke there, so Turtle had plenty of time to set up. I'm a little bit surprised. I wonder if it's because they were looking towards the west side for a bit, and as a result, the team is split. Yes, that's exactly what's happening. Take a look at this. You've got Zay on the east side fighting off the life-saving killers, but he's so far split from Jakub. So I think what must have happened here is that they have a great position, but they ended up at least temporarily fighting two teams at once.
Absolutely, and Jakob was off on that far west-hand side, raining down onto Hannibal, and that fight that was going on. But as we saw on the minimap, Milkman just four-man sent it all the way up and took his position. He has managed to get away as this next zone pops to go and help with the fight on the life-saving killers. Is he going to have a nice off angle here as he crests this next ridge? That is going to be the question, and that could be the deciding factor on who wins this fight.
Turtle have to come down off the cliff. Entropy, Instaflush. 4 Amen. C-Play all have to come out of Yasnaya. This is the Tinder, but we're going to end up with a phase 6 with basically 2, maximum 3 teams alive at this rate. This is going to be a little bit of a bloodbath, and it's always what happens when you force multiple teams to come out of a city. Entropy, therefore, deciding to take the initiative, going straight out of Yasnaya. Instaflush, I don't think, know this yet. They're moving up on the back of Wii Sports. They want to try and rotate on the west side, go through all of these teams one at a time. The reason they're doing this, because the faster they move, the less likely it is that they get third party, and they do not want their backs to be open to anyone. Wii Sports eliminated now, and Jakob managing to get a knock on the opposite side of the circle. Let's see, Turtle Esports potentially going out here to the life-saving killers, and then after this we have the Entropy rotate that might actually kill 2 different squads.
It was great play from Nick the G there. He knew where he was, and it was great trigger discipline initially of Jacob to take the fight of the furthest opponent, knowing exactly where the closest one was. But he did pay the price with his life as the utility dump comes out, as they try and get the revive and try and fight this turtle squad at as full strength as they can possibly muster. Is he going to stick the res? They know he's down, and they need to start pushing that utility, and that's it. Turtle coming from one of the strongest positions and the best spread across this north side of the circle to losing their first real fight with the life-saving killers. Doing absolutely phenomenal work there. They're on 7 kills, and hopefully they're now going to get this amazing circle control, and we might see a little bit of the same skill that they showed in game number 1.
Yeah, this is interesting. I feel like I'd want to go back into the replay to find out what happened to Turtle there and whether or not they were just fighting 2 teams at once. Because you're right, Krot, they had such a strong position. It seems odd that this would have happened to them. Not so easily, but I feel like they had the potential to put up more of a fight. So it'll be interesting to see what happened in retrospect. In the meantime, we are on board with the Milkman. Foxsake able to get revived. Looks like Milky has gone down. So Morty and Smora still continuing to support him here. They've got 4 kills to their name and 3 left alive here at the 24-minute mark, which is impressive. I thought we'd have fewer than 6 teams alive by now, to be fair, but several are being gate-kept. I feel bad for Turbo Badger right now. Instaflush is trying to find a way into the circle, but Entropy gatekeeping hard after they went across. Yasnaya, that's them eliminated. Well done to Entropy. They've secured themselves a position in the top 5. They had to go through, I think, 4 Amen and Wii Sports as well, so those teams no longer exist in the lobby, and it looks like their next opponents are going to be C-Play.
Yeah, C-Play playing a little bit more of a passive game. I don't think they only got 1 member up, and they've just been a little bit quiet, having to move in on this side. Entropy taking a lot of fights here. They moved up onto Arctic. They took a couple from them, and then they engaged with the remaining member of Instaflush. I think Turbo actually did knock and flush Jones, if I'm not mistaken. I did see in the kill feed, but that's left them wounded with next to no cover, and I think they have 1 vehicle, and I don't know if that's in any fit state to try and move up into this zone. Oh, Morty taking out. They're annihilating Team Arctic White there as we go into the top 4 teams. The Milkmen 3 up and looking in a very strong position, but we've got the life-saving killers who put on that magical display until the 3v1 in the end of the first game. Let's see if they can right the wrong that they had in that first game.
Oh, it'd be very, very sweet for them to come on with the chicken dinner here. You're right. Let's see if they can do it. Entropy already have 7 kills, by the way. Only 2 of them left alive, but they're certainly pulling their weight. Lipsia and Carlo have 3 kills each and are looking for more at the moment. Fox gets taken out by Nick the G. Everyone has to be very careful with the sight lines going up to the cliff right now, because the life-saving killers, with 4 up and plenty of sight lines, they are absolutely the ones to watch. And there's only a single member of C-Play. There are only 2 members of Milkman. There are only 2 members of Entropy. Make that 3 teams as C-Play go out of the game. So the life-saving killers now looking like they are in a very, very good spot for the victory.
they still do have a car as well. And I think whilst the other two teams are fighting, they're going to make use of this and try and pull up a little bit more and get a bit more circle control or space in the zone. But it looks like, judging by the mini-map, they're playing a little bit more passive. We do see this fight, and just Mora left now, and he's getting rained down on by life-saving killers. Nick the G collecting that kill and turning it into a 4v2. 2 teams left. 4 life-saving killers versus Entropy. And they're exchanging shots. Lipsa goes down. That's some great shots there. And now the charge starts. Please, boys, go as a unit. Don't give them the ones. Do not give them the ones. Apply the pressure. They need to leave one back and they need to push to 3 here. They need to use their utility to apply as much pressure as possible and not let Carlo... Oh, shut up. They've done it. I wasn't expecting that to end like that.
Life-saving killers there with 11 kills, managing to get the chicken dinner there. But I should point out that Entropy were on at least 8 kills going into that. In fact, they end up with 9. So very, very credible second place. The Milkman coming in third with 5 kills as well. Well done to all of the top teams there. And this means we're going to be set up for a very, very interesting game number 6 indeed.
Indeed.
One game left, Krot, and... obviously, we don't have the scoreboard yet, and we won't until we come back from the break. But based on the results from that game, what are you expecting to see?
Well, life-saving killers, I think they potentially just jumped themselves up into the top position. But let's not write off. We saw Entropy. They had a lot of kills and a second, right? So that's potentially, I think they were in 6th before this game. I think they would be 2nd or 3rd now. And again, insta-flush surviving late game. They got a few frags for their money. And again, it's coming down to classic PSS. It's a custom at this point. It's going to come down to the wire. This last game is going to decide potentially between 4 teams. Let's not forget Arctic as well. They were still up there. They were in second
They were
or
in the
third
placement
place.
points. They weren't at the sharp end, but I think they got a decent number of kills as well, even though they went out beyond the top 3.
I think this is anyone's game, Jara. I think this is going to be the closest PSS we've ever had, because normally we see it dueling out between 1 or 2 teams. I think we've got 5 that can potentially take home the crown this month, Jara.
So get ready, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and grab yourselves a comfort break. Maybe get a drink, something to eat. We will be back after this break for the 6th and final game of the March PUBG Survival Showdown.